In July 2025, archaeologists in Belize broke through the floor of a tomb they discovered 32 years ago. What they found underneath rewrote Maya history, the 1,700-year-old burial chamber of Te K'ab Chaak, the founding king of Caracol, one of the most powerful cities in the ancient Maya world. His tomb contained 11 pottery vessels, 3 sets of jade earflares, carved bone tubes, Pacific shells, and a shattered jade death mask that once covered his face. This is the first identifiable royal tomb ever found at Caracol, after more than 40 years of excavation. Te K'ab Chaak ascended the throne in 331 AD and founded a dynasty that ruled for over 460 years. At its peak, Caracol housed over 100,000 people, more than twice the population of Belize City today. This discovery reveals the origins of one of history's longest-lasting royal dynasties and changes what we thought we knew about Maya civilization. Archaeologists Arlen and Diane Chase have been excavating at Caracol for over 40 years. They're a husband and wife team from the University of Houston, and they've spent decades mapping this massive Maya city hidden in Belize's jungle. In 1993, they discovered a burial chamber in Caracol's northeast Acropolis, a ceremonial complex just outside the city center reserved for Maya royalty. But this year, they realized something. Beneath that tomb's floor was another chamber, an earlier one. When they carefully excavated through the floor, Arlen Chase saw red cinnabar, a mineral used exclusively in elite Maya burials, covering the walls. He knew immediately they'd found something extraordinary. Inside was a skeleton approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall with no remaining teeth, suggesting advanced age at death. But the artifacts told the real story. 11 pottery vessels surrounded the body. One featured a Maya ruler holding a spear while receiving offerings from supplicants depicted as deities. Another showed Chua, the Maya god of traders, surrounded by offerings. 4 vessels portrayed bound captives, imagery associated with military conquest and royal power. 2 pottery lids were sculpted as coatimundi heads, an animal whose Maya name Tsuts would later be incorporated into subsequent Caracol rulers' names. This wasn't random decoration, it was dynastic symbolism, linking this ruler to everyone who came after him. Then there were the jade artifacts, 3 complete sets of jade earflares, which Diane Chase called incredibly unusual, noting they typically find 0 sets, much less 3. 4 jade beads carved with spider monkey faces, a jade pendant, and most striking, a mosaic death mask made of jade, now shattered into over 100 pieces. Diane Chase told the University of Houston, "We don't usually get one death mask, much less multiples. This is even more unusual." Death masks in Maya burials are exceptionally rare. They've only found one other at Caracol in 40 years of digging. Arlen Chase was direct about what this means. This guy is a 1%er. That's why he has so many vessels and 3 sets of jade earflares in that chamber. The tomb contained no inscriptions identifying its occupant, so how do the Chases know this is Te K'ab Chaak? Hieroglyphic texts found elsewhere at Caracol identified Te K'ab Chaak as the dynasty founder who ascended the throne around 331 AD. His name translates to tree branch rain god. The Chases dated the newly discovered tomb to between 330 and 350 AD using 2 methods. First, the pottery style matches the early Classic period, which spans roughly 280 to 380 AD. Second, they used radiocarbon dating from a cremation burial they excavated in 2010 that was placed directly above this tomb. That cremation dated to around 330 to 350 AD. Since it was stratigraphically above the tomb, meaning it was placed later, the tomb must be from the same period or slightly earlier. Combined with the extraordinary wealth of the burial, the royal symbolism in the pottery, the 3 sets of jade earflares, the death mask, and the timing matching Te K'ab Chaak's reign, the evidence is compelling. Diane Chase told National Geographic they're 99.9% confident this is Te K'ab Chaak. She added, "We found the first person in the dynasty, so that in itself, in terms of the history of Caracol, is huge. We found numerous tombs with really impressive artifacts inside that were clearly members of the royal family, but this is the first one where it matches with hieroglyphic records to be a ruler, and beyond that, the first dynastic ruler." Francisco Estrada Belli, an archaeologist at Tulane University who wasn't involved in the research, told National Geographic, "This is an extremely important discovery. It is extremely rare to find the burial of a known Maya king, let alone of a dynasty founder." Te K'ab Chaak founded a dynasty that ruled Caracol for over 460 years, making it one of the longest-lasting political institutions in ancient America. At its height, between 560 and 680 AD, Caracol dominated the southern Yucatan Peninsula. The city covered approximately 200 square kilometers, about 77 square miles, and supported a population of over 100,000 people. That's more than twice the population of Belize City today, the largest metropolitan area in modern Belize. To put this in perspective, Caracol was larger than many contemporary European cities. While London during the same period housed roughly 20,000 people, Caracol supported 5 times that number in the middle of the rainforest. The city's infrastructure was staggering. The Chases discovered that Caracol covered some 240 square kilometers when you include the interconnected road systems linking residential areas to the urban core. The site features massive pyramids, agricultural terraces, causeways, and the 140-foot-tall Kana Pyramid, which remains one of the tallest structures in Belize today. And Caracol wasn't just wealthy, it was militarily dominant. In 562 AD, warriors from Caracol defeated the forces of Tikal in Guatemala, one of the most powerful Maya cities in Mesoamerica. This victory confirmed Caracol's regional supremacy and established it as the dominant political power in the Maya lowlands. In 631 AD, Caracol defeated another rival city, Naranjo. The dynasty Te K'ab Chaak founded wasn't just surviving, it was conquering. Historical records show at least 15 kings ruled Caracol, with 11 having been identified by name. The last recorded ruler, known as Ruler 13, is commemorated on a carved stone monument dated to 859 AD. That means from Te K'ab Chaak's ascension in 331 AD to the final recorded king in 859 AD, this dynasty ruled for 528 years, over 5 centuries. For comparison, that's longer than the entire history of the United States. But here's what makes this discovery truly paradigm-shifting. Te K'ab Chaak's tomb reveals that early Maya kings were engaged in sophisticated international diplomacy decades earlier than anyone realized. The cremation burial found above Te K'ab Chaak's tomb, dated to 350 AD, contained artifacts from central Mexico. Specifically, 2 large knives, 6 atlatl spear thrower points, and 15 pristine obsidian blades from Pachuca, Mexico, located north of the ancient city of Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan, located near present-day Mexico City, was one of the largest cities in the world during this period, housing over 100,000 people by 300 AD. But here's the key detail. Teotihuacan is approximately 750 miles from Caracol. That's a 750-mile journey on foot through mountains, jungles, and rivers. Diane Chase emphasized this point to Newsweek. Mexico City and where Caracol is located are not close, even today. It's a pretty long drive in a car on a highway, and folks would have been walking. For decades, archaeologists believed widespread contact between the Maya and Teotihuacan began in 378 AD with an event called La Entrada, when individuals from Teotihuacan staged a military incursion or coup in the Maya city of Tikal.
This event is well documented in Maya hieroglyphic records.
But the burials at Caracol date to at least a generation before La Entrada. That means Te K'ab Chaak and other early Maya kings were already conducting formal diplomatic relationships with Teotihuacan in the 330s to 350s AD, nearly 50 years earlier than previously recognized. Diane Tace explained to CBS News, Maya carved stone monuments, hieroglyphic dates, iconography, and archaeological data all suggests that widespread pan-Mesoamerican connections occurred after an event in 378 AD referred to as the Entrada. Whether this event represented actual Teotihuacanos in the Maya area or Maya using Central Mexican symbols is still debated. The Caracol archaeological data suggests that the situation was far more complicated. Arlen Chase told the University of Houston, both Central Mexico and the Maya area were clearly aware of each other's ritual practices. The connections between the two regions were undertaken by the highest levels of society, suggesting that initial kings at various Maya cities, such as Te K'ab Chaak at Caracol, were engaged in formal diplomatic relationships with Teotihuacan. David Carballo, an archaeologist from Boston University who wasn't involved in the research, told National Geographic, the discovery shines light on the sorts of relationships the Teotihuacanos and Mayas had in the early 4th century, which seem based on trade, pilgrimages to Teotihuacan, and diplomacy. This completely rewrites our understanding of early Maya geopolitics. These weren't isolated city-states. They were internationally connected kingdoms conducting diplomacy across hundreds of miles. So what happened to this dynasty that ruled for over 500 years? By 900 AD, Caracol was abandoned, along with many other major Maya cities across the region. This is part of what's called the Maya collapse, when numerous Maya cities in the southern lowlands were depopulated over the span of a century. The reasons are still debated. Climate change, prolonged droughts, soil depletion, warfare, political instability, likely some combination of all these factors contributed to the abandonment of cities like Caracol. But for over 500 years before that collapse, the dynasty Te K'ab Chaak founded thrived. His descendants built one of the largest cities in the Americas. They defeated rival kingdoms. They maintained diplomatic relationships with civilizations 750 miles away. They ruled over 100,000 people in a sophisticated urban center with pyramids, causeways, and agricultural systems. The tomb the Chases discovered in 2025 is currently being studied in detail. Archaeologists are reconstructing the shattered jade death mask piece by piece. They're conducting DNA and isotope analysis on Te K'ab Chaak's skeletal remains to learn more about his origins, diet, and health. This is just the beginning of what Te K'ab Chaak's tomb can teach us. After 40 years of excavation, archaeologists finally found the tomb of Caracol's founding king, Te K'ab Chaak, who ascended the throne in 331 AD, was buried with extraordinary wealth. Jade death masks, 3 sets of jade earflares, 11 pottery vessels depicting gods and bound captives, carved bones, and Pacific shells. His dynasty ruled for over 460 years and possibly as long as 528 years based on the last recorded ruler. At its peak, Caracol housed over 100,000 people and dominated the southern Maya lowlands after defeating rival city Tikal in 562 AD. But what makes this discovery truly groundbreaking is the evidence of early international diplomacy. Te K'ab Chaak and his contemporaries were conducting formal relationships with Teotihuacan 750 miles away, nearly 50 years earlier than archaeologists previously recognized. This wasn't an isolated city-state. This was a sophisticated kingdom engaged in long-distance trade, international diplomacy, military conquest, and urban planning that sustained 100,000 people in the rainforest for centuries. The Maya weren't just building pyramids and carving calendars, they were building empires that lasted longer than most European dynasties. And we're only now beginning to understand how they did it. Drop a comment with your thoughts on what else might be buried at Caracol.